Hey up! Hey! Welcome! Oh, welcome back! And you find me today upon Little Norman here, my fabulous Royal Enfield Classic 350. And I've always got a big fat grin on my face whenever I ride this here little bike. And one word sort of sums it up. This bike, riding this bike, that word being effortless. Effortless. I don't have to think about anything when I'm riding this here bike. And those of you out there, and I know there are quite a few that own one of these, will know exactly what I mean. There's very, very little effort in riding this beautiful little bike. It rides itself. It's got excellent manners, excellent handling. And because it's nowhere near as powerful as that there KTM 1290 Super Adventure, hey, and I don't blame him for smoking me there, because I used to have one of them. Buy hell, they are quick. But the beauty of this modest little performer is you don't have to worry about going too fast. You don't have to worry about whether you're going to make an overtake or not, because frankly you don't make that many. Hey, but you don't want to. You don't really have to worry that you've got a whole heap of value between your legs. So not like that KTM there, probably 17-18 grand, eh? You don't have to worry about that. You don't really have to worry about anything, and what that does is it frees up your mind. Well, it does for me. It frees up my mind to be able to be in the moment, appreciate the landscape that I'm riding through, and to be able to augment that experience, if you will, by reflecting upon many of the aspects of why it is that this bike makes me feel so good. And I've said in the past, and I will say it again, I find it quite difficult to articulate within the limits of our current lexicon precisely why this bike makes me feel like it does. But let me try at any rate. Sorry I paused there, because yet again this ridiculous Cardo Pack Talk Bold turned the radio on when I said something completely innocuous. Aye, so yeah, let me try anyway. Basically, as you may be aware, because I have mentioned it previously on this channel, but the reason I like modern classics so much is they take me back to those heady days of motorcycling. Now obviously when I say heady days, I'm really talking about the 1960s, and of course I was born in the 1960s, so I was the very back end of the baby boomers. I think I'm as old as it's, or sorry, rather I'm as young as it's possible to be and still be a baby boomer. Any road up, so obviously I wasn't motorcycling back in the 1960s, but my old man was, and my uncle was, and so of course Tales of two-wheeled derring-do throughout the preceding decades, interrupted only by the outbreak of World War II, proliferated family conversations. And when I was old enough to accompany my dad to the local social club, hey, and have a glass or two of illegal sherbet, as it would have been then at the age of 16 or so, those conversations were frequent, I think it's fair to say, and I was routinely exposed to them, and so I became hooked, obviously. That's what dads do, isn't it? They influence the kids, particularly the sons, I would suggest. That was certainly the case back in my day. So yeah, that'll probably be sort of then late 70s, early 80s, when all these tales of motorcycling in the 30s, late 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. That's when those anecdotes, if you like, were oft being exchanged. Aye, great days. So yeah, that's cemented my interest. Now my first years of motorcycling, if you like, were defined by big capacity 4+ cylinder motorcycles, inline 4s, V4s, a couple of 6-cylinder motorcycles, all the big stuff. And it wasn't until latterly in my sort of motorcycling lifetime that I got not so much interested in old classic motorcycles, because I'm pretty much out of my depth there, but certainly in the modern classics that came along. The tribute acts, if you like, of course, of which this is one. And that really sort of piqued my interests and brought me right back to those tales of high adventure on two wheels that my dad and his mates and my uncle used to tell, and about all the bikes they used to have, and how one bike were better than the other, and how a certain other bike might have had certain idiosyncrasies and all of that. Fabulous, rich, colourful, organic, elemental storytelling, always ably assisted by a pint or two of the brown stuff. Hey. So I was brought up with those tales, but it wasn't until later that I sort of felt a nostalgic calling, and I ended up getting my first proper modern classic motorcycle, which was a Royal Enfield Interceptor 650, and since then I've had several modern classics. I currently have 2 modern classics, what you would call Motor Guzzi V7 and Norman the Classic 350 here. And let me assure you, something tells me that more of them will come along at some point. Yeah, so basically, yeah, it's about all those feelings of nostalgia and remembering happy times as a kid, listening to my dad's old war stories and biking stories. And a little part of me, when I get on a bike like this, is right back there. So I think that's the underlying reason, and that's probably why this bike makes me feel the way that it does. Just content and unbothered by the external complexities of the world, which seem to surround us constantly. Now in a way in which previously they never quite did, whatever was happening. So that's what this bike means to me. And I think back about my old man. Every time I get on this bike, I think probably this is why it is. There's never a time when I've ridden this bike when I haven't thought about my dad. There's never been an occasion where some memory or reflection, recollection hasn't presented itself in relation to my old man. Now he's, both my parents are long gone. I mean, they had me late in life anyway. My dad was 50 when I was born, and he passed away 25 years ago, almost to the day. Yeah, 25 years ago next month. And I reflect back at that time. I mean, we should never have too many regrets in life, should we? But I don't know about you, but sometimes I look back and I think, that was a poor decision. That was a really poor decision. You might have thought you were making it for the right reasons at the time, but actually, taking the broader view over the arc of a life lived, it was a poor decision. And my poor decision, and it's at the root of why I get a little bit hot under the collar when people start having a snipe at other people, maybe because of where they come from or what they look like. I can't be doing with that at all. I don't think I ever have been able to do, but what brought it into sharp focus for me were back when my old man passed away in 1999. Now, at a good old age, he was 84, and he'd been in a nursing home in Ilkley for a couple of years because his mobility was shot to pieces. And my mother, who obviously was also getting a bit long in the tooth, she just couldn't look after him. And of course all the family busy working, you know, paying the mortgage, putting a roof over the heads of family, food on the table. So it's never an easy decision to have to do that. But sometimes there isn't really a viable option. But anyway, that's not the issue. We're a pretty good, by and large, a pretty good nursing home that he went into, such as these places are. Now, the other thing here is, before I end up down that farm track instead of where I should be going, because I'm dicking about with this ridiculous visor mechanism on this very expensive helmet. Aye. So yeah, it wasn't a particularly bad nursing home, but you know, God, it's no way to end your days. It really isn't. Anyway, so yeah, we're 84 when he passed away. But when he was quite ill, he had a sudden deterioration, as often happens. You know, you get a gradual deterioration in health that you can observe on an almost incremental basis over a period of months and weeks, and then completely from left field there can be a sudden and rapid deterioration, and that's what happened to my old man. And on the night, or rather the early hours of the morning, when he'd passed away, I was working. I was the night duty inspector in Leeds, and I'd recently been promoted inspector. I'd been a sergeant in Bradford, and then I'd got promoted inspector, quite young in service. I was full of myself, as you can imagine, and moved over to the big city, Leeds, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, the book stops with me. There's nobody else to go to. And a big busy city like Leeds. And yeah, your PCs can always go to your sergeants, and your sergeants can always go to the inspector, and your younger PCs can always go to the more senior PCs for advice. But when you take up your post, your first post as a duty inspector at a busy division, that's it. Until the higher ranking pen pushers come in, hey, in the morning, then between sort of 6 and 6, or between 6 and 7, 6 p.m. until 7 a.m, you're it. So there I am. Anyway, I get a phone call. It'll have been about 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that, wee small hours, from one of the carers at the nursing home, lovely lady, saying your dad's deteriorating rapidly and you really need to be here. And I'm thinking, well, what can I do? I mean, I can't up sticks. I can't just up sticks and absent myself and leave half of Leeds, massive city, very, very frenetic policing environment, very dynamic policing environment, even in the wee small hours. I can't just up sticks and leave. You know, I've nobody I can pass it on to. Totally unreasonable to ask an inspector from somewhere outside of Leeds to watch over, because it's just not, you know, with all the demands placed upon that role, it's just not possible to cover an area as big as that. So I just said, look, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it. I tried to ring my mum, got no answer, because she's deaf as a post and sound asleep, obviously. So it was a bit traumatic, really, and I just thought, well, I finish at 7 o'clock, let's hope he can hold on. And when I think back, what I should have done, I should have got somebody out of bed at home, somebody a bit more senior, and said, look, this is a situation and I really need to go. Because if I'd you know, if it had become violently ill or something like that, they'd have had to find a way, wouldn't they, covering. But you know, I were full of myself, and so I got all my priorities wrong. You know, I was determined to make a name for myself in this new role. So obviously I stayed put until 7 o'clock when I got relieved, and then I went straight to the nursing home, and by that time it was too late. Now, fortunately, in as much as anything can be fortunate in circumstances like this, he didn't die alone, because the carer there, lovely lady, very compassionate, she stayed with him. Now, I'm not entirely sure anybody else would have done in those circumstances, but she did. She had a heart of gold, and she held his hand while he slipped away, so he wasn't on his own. And she didn't have to do that, you know. Not in her job description at all, I wouldn't have thought, but she did. And I think that's just an enduring memory for me, having that conversation with her and being reassured by her that it was peaceful and dignified. But if I got my priorities right and realised that that one defining moment in life is the end of life, and for all those years when he gave of his best for me, and right at the end I'm not there to be able to say thank you in some way. And it was difficult, but I look back and I think that were a bad call by me, a really bad one. It's hard to think of a worse one, really. So yeah, which all brings me back to why why I like to get on Norman, because he's so effortless to ride this bike that it allows me to reflect upon life and what's important, what's not important, what decisions I may have made in the past that were below par, and what were reasonably successful, and all of that allows you to reflect on life. And if there's one thing that really saddens me about modern life, is it's just the way we seem to be constantly encouraged to be at each other's throats. It's like some very, very people in society, and I think about certain parts of political life, and I think about certain aspects of the media, particularly the tabloid media, and I get the impression they're like the Greek gods of old, playing with the lives of other people to amuse themselves. And it's absolutely unforgivable. What a cracking looking bike, eh? I just think with these Royal Enfield Classic 350s, they've got the vintage styling design absolutely spot on, and I think that's the best colour, really I do. It's a period colour, straight out of the 60s, that their light blue colour. But they're just a beautiful bike to look at, they're a beautiful bike to ride, and they just put you at ease. Talked in the past about formatting memory cards to wipe them clean, and this is where I come to format my internal memory card just for a little while. Time for a pie. Yeah, you know, it doesn't really get much better than this. We're into October now, and the signs of autumn are starting to develop in the landscape. Before too long, the sort of vibrant greens we've been accustomed to for the past few months will slowly changing browns and reds and golds and yellows. Beautiful. Before, of course, it's all lost to the winter. So always a time of mixed feelings, autumn. Yeah, what a wonderful place to come out for a moment of pause, get away from the mad, mad world. And on a fantastic bike like a Royal Enfield Classic 350. Or, of course, your own modern classic of choice. Your own motorcycle of choice, for that matter. And I think, you know, the thing to do when you come out here is to just immerse yourself in the sounds of nature. Just this babbling brook behind me. So the breeze through the bracken here. The occasional bit of bird song. The occasional bleat from these here sheep. It's wonderful. The world's a beautiful place if only we would allow it to be. Can't help but think, you know, with all that's happening at the moment, that our leaders, the great and good, have become like God, but for the wisdom. It's not a pretty sight from where I'm standing. But anyway, there'll always be places like this for us, won't there? Yeah, and I'll just sign off by saying I enjoy doing this, and I hope that that comes across when I come out to these remote places, do a bit of filming on one of my 3 bikes. I hope it comes across how much it means to me, and I hope therefore that you take something from the experience yourself. It's solace for the soul, no doubt about it. Yeah, so that'd be about it. Did I say 3 bikes? Be interesting if there were 4, wouldn't it? I'll see you.